Class 1 involves working with a pencil. If we are drawing lines, we hold the pencil differently from the way we hold them for continuous tone values. And I will show you both of those ways. To hold the pencil for line drawing, we want to hold the pencil with your fingers or your hand choked up close to the point of the pencils in this fashion. So, and the pencil is held fairly vertically so that you have quite a bit of control over how that pencil line goes down. When we are doing continuous tone, we want to be able to put a value on the page without it getting too dark, and to be able to have that tone cover the area fairly evenly. So we want to hold the pencil farther down on the length of the pencil, close to the edge, so that the pencil is almost parallel to the paper. We don't want to hold the pencil this way because we don't quite have the control that we need in order to get a nice value tone. The other thing that we want to make sure is to make sure that our pencil point is always sharp. The first exercise that you will have to do is to use the pencil, creating short and long straight lines. And you will create two boxes in which to place these lines. They should be approximately 1 inch by 3 inches for the short lines, and 3 inches by 3 inches or a little longer for the longer lines. Now, the different way of working with this is, again, you'll always hold the pencil in a relatively vertical position to the paper with your hand close to the pointed edge of the pencil. But the difference in working with short lines and longer lines is that you want to use, when you are creating short lines, you just want to work with your wrist and fingers to create a nice smooth line. And what you will be required to do is to, just using your hand and your wrist, is create a series of parallel lines that fill the box that you're working in. With a wider line, you want to work so that the whole arm moves, and it gives you a nice movement, keeping the wrist fairly firm or stiff. So you're going to just draw using your elbow as the fulcrum point and draw the lines straight across. Nice and evenly, so you get parallel lines to one another, trying to maintain equal spacing across the page. The second step in this exercise is you will create another box that is 1 by 3 and 3 by 3 on another part of the page. And for expedience sake, I'm just going to use the same boxes here, but you will need to have 3 separate sets of boxes. So the first box, label it as straight, even lines. The next set of boxes, you will have straight, thick, and thin lines. And the way that you do that is by changing the amount of pressure on the pencil. So again, we'll start light, add a little bit more pressure, and gradually get light again. Start light, continue to add pressure, and release the pressure, so that you end up with thick and thin parallel lines. The same will be true with the longer lines, although what you will need to do is do a thin to thick to thin to thick to thin. so that you will have two spaces on each line that are heavier, and will gradually blend slowly into the thin lines and finish off. That is your second exercise. Again, I'm showing you everything on one piece of one box so that we don't have to draw 6 boxes in order for you to get the idea of how to do this. The next exercise will require you drawing curved thin and thick lines. So with the narrow box, we're going to go thin, curve, thicken, and release to thin. In all cases, you want to try and keep the lines parallel, and you want to try and keep your thin and thick lines in the same area, so that when you're through, you will see a certain amount of consistency. As you can see, I'm a little off there on that last one. On the wider page, or on the wider box, you will do 2 curves. So you'll start thin, go thick, go thin, go thick, and go thin. Trying to maintain parallel spacing and thicknesses in the same place. Now, the reason that we do this is so that we start to develop a sensitivity to line and how it can be used. When you have thin lines, they tend to recede from you. When you have thicker lines, they either imply shadow or they are coming closer to you. So when you're drawing something, if you have an object that goes into space, you might want to put your heavier lines in the front and your finer lines in the back.